Thank you for tuning in to another edition of the Boxing Voice. I'm your boy Jeremy Flanagan, and so what we have for you guys today is an exclusive interview with David Junebug Mijares. Now, if you guys missed out on David Junebug Mijares' interview on last week, I'm about to run it back for you guys so you'll be able to check out this interview. So hey, sit back, relax, make sure you tune in every Thursday and Sunday starting at 7 o'clock p.m. on our TBV podcast. You don't want to miss out.
Our guest Junebug Mijares and our co-producer Monster Peace are on the line.
Monster.
Hello, guys. I got David Junebug Mijares on the line. How you doing?
I'm good. I'm good.
David, what's going on, brother?
What's going on? I just got done jumping rope for a little bit, so I'm ready to go now. Got a little bit of juices flowing, ready to talk to you guys.
You're becoming a regular on our show. We actually had you on before your pro debut. You remember coming on?
Yeah, absolutely. I love the experience of it. I love this show, man.
Well, I think we had him back in October as well, because I remember watching your last fight and you scored that big knockout. Things, happened quickly in the first round. But can you walk us back through that one and what led ultimately to, what happened?
So yeah, that was a tough fight because my manager actually came in before it to the dressing room and he told me, you don't take this guy lightly. He's serious business. So I went out there and I turned on the business side of things, and I had to go in there and I didn't want to linger at all. So I just went in there, threw some of those thunderous body shots that I love, and I was able to get him out of there. I think that's what kind of loosened him up a little bit, and I was able to get the stoppage.
Now that Golden Boy and Oscar De La Hoya have been able to get this deal with ESPN, some of these fights at the Belasco and other fights that used to be on ringtv.com are probably going to get that exposure on both, ESPN Deportes and ESPN. Have you heard that news? Does that excite you? Because you'll possibly be able to get in front of more television sets and become more of a household name, obviously.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm super excited that this deal went through with ESPN, and I love Ring TV so much. They do such a good job with the production, and so now that us young prospects and fighters are coming up, and we're able to kind of work our way up on the people's televisions. I'm super excited about it, and I'm very happy.
Now, what do you know about your opponent that you're going to be facing here in February 3rd, just a couple of days? He seems to be a veteran, obviously has a lot more fights than you, been around the block a bit, and he's been able to rack up a 4-fight win streak, so it's impressive to see you going in to a fight with someone with an actual winning record. When kids are on their developmental, promoters usually putting them in easier fights, but here you are in your 5th fight already getting a veteran. So have you been watching any tape? What exactly do you know on Mijares? Excuse me, not Mijares. On Herrera.
Yeah, unfortunately the opponent has changed because I don't believe Herrera was ready. He wasn't in camp for this fight. So the opponent has changed, and I will be fighting a new fighter by the name of Vinci Dixon, and he's a veteran as well, and I know that it'll be very interesting to see how that stacks up because he has the height on me. He's about 6 feet tall, and I'm 5'6.5", so it's going to be interesting to see what goes down, and but I'm super excited because I'm getting after those ribs. I'm hungry, so I'm be getting after his ribs all night. I'm gonna try and shut him down. So we'll see what happens.
Hey, David, I'm Steven Calderon, the producer. Again, it's great to have you back on the show. You have a really charismatic personality, and you have a lot of hype behind you. Do you ever feel like built up pressure, and how is it that you're able to, deal with all this popularity? There are already being talks about putting more TV time for you. How are you able to keep so cool through all this?
Well, I just try to stay grounded as much as I can. I don't like looking at myself as a big little thing, little prospect or anything like that. I'm just a normal dude, just trying to make some money by boxing, and that's how I've always looked at it. And whenever I walk the streets and someone recognizes me, I take the time to talk to them. I'm not big on just being super. I'm not about the arrogance about the sport. I just love bringing people together, and I love having my family and friends come out and watching me fight. And as long as they're entertained and I'm able to stack up and rack up some fans off of it, I'm happy, and I hope they are too.
Hey, David, it's Matt, the editor from the Boxing Voice. Glad to have you back on. Very quickly, do you have a timeline in your mind on when you want to start fighting more established names? You're very young in your career. You're at 4-0 with 3 knockouts. That you're very early in this. So obviously, you may think that's really far down the line. But when do you want to start fighting top 20 guys, top 30 guys? In your mind, when is that?
I believe as soon as I get through, because there's the middle tier of boxing is the hardest opponents. These kinds of opponents that take you through the 6 rounds, the 8 rounds, the 10 rounds. This is where your legacy is kind of made. So as soon as I'm able to get through those guys and really show what I can do against them and try to impress folks as well, I believe I'll be ready to go up against the top 20, fighters. Of course, that is down the line, but like I said, I have to make sure that I work my way through this middle tier of fighters, and not to say that they're any lower than any other fighters. I respect them just as much. They're the ones who make the fights happen. They're the ones they're like the doorkeepers of boxing. And if you want to get through those doors, then the only way to do it is by winning up against them impressively, not just kind of squeezing your way by. You really have to do it impressively to make sure that the fans are happy with what they see.
Dude, no one's ever answered that question that good, ever. Because you're absolutely right. You have to. Go ahead.
At the same time, I'm a boxing fan as well, so I'm able to, I look at it from both ways, and I try to come up with an answer at the end of the day. And the answer is what I want to be. I want to form myself into that answer. I want to mold myself into that. So it's just a couple of things that I pick up here and there from watching boxing.
No, definitely a very educated answer. I want to ask you, so what's the Chinese writing on your Instagram? What is that, and why did you choose it?
Oh yeah, it's Japanese, and it's my name in Japanese because we had a couple of guests from Japan training with me and my father, and so I just wanted to show them respect because they followed me on Instagram, so I wanted to kind of keep it real and show my roots, and a lot of my training is kind of based off of the Japanese arts of kendo, because kendo is very similar to boxing, as you want to control the center line of things, and I'll go further into that later, but yeah, that's what that's about.
Oh, please go further into that now. That's really interesting. I don't know of a lot of fighters that study other arts and try to apply that to, what we call sweet science. Usually people are, there are those MMA type fighters, but not a whole lot of boxers that I know of really practice, these other arts. And just tell me about it. I need to know.
Oh man, that you know what? It's actually the secret sauce that my pops came up with, and my pops is my trainer. So all I can do is just kind of explain the what kendo is, it's sword fighting, but you're trying to control the center line against things. Those are the basics that I know about it. The rest of it is kind of implemented in my training. So I'm not exactly positive on all the parts that he touches on. So it's a difficult question to answer, but that's where that comes from.
David, you've been fighting at the Belasco Theater a lot lately, and you have said that you were a fan. You are a fan of the sport, and you've been fighting on the small theater, the small circuit, in a sense, the regional scene. As a person that was a fan and is now a boxer, is your perception of fights, going to fights, has that changed? As anything, has your way of thinking about the sport changed now that you are in it, in a sense?
Yeah, it has. Unfortunately, there are things, when you sit down and watching a fight with your family or your friends, and they're yelling at the television because they're mad that this guy isn't doing this, and he's supposed to be doing this, but he's not doing this. Sometimes I got to turn to my friends and I tell them, it's not as easy as it looks. It's not as simple as it looks. The human mind is complex, and this guy has all these other things going on in his head, and it's very, very, very difficult to keep track of everything while you're in there. So as simple as, a lot of the greats made it look, like Sugar Ray Leonard, Oscar De La Hoya, Floyd Mayweather, as simple as things look, it's extremely difficult to keep that stubbornness and that mindset of to keep doing what you do. And it's very difficult. That's all that I explained to them, and they're like, yeah, we know. And but it always, I love the whole vibe behind just watching boxing in general. It's because you're able to see what everyone else does, and just checking them out and see what things that you can learn from them, like especially during the title fights.
Hey, so David, going back to how you said that you had your opponent changed. So far in your professional career, have you had an opponent change like this, and how much time did you have to prepare, for this new opponent?
Yeah, no, I've not had an opponent change like this. So this is my first time. It was kind of a short notice. It's about, I think we had 4 weeks to try and rack up some really good sparring to make the adjustments. So, but other than that, I mean, that's where the amateur experience comes into play. You have to know, you have to be prepared for everything. So I was sparring with different looks the whole time, and I still am sparring different, they're tall southpaws, they're tall orthodox, short orthodox. There are different things that I want to keep in mind. I want to stay sharp, especially coming off of the holidays. I kind of took a lot of time off, and I felt a little bit dull once I got back in the gym. And now I'm feeling, regular, going back to myself, going back to the sharpening my skills. So,
David, man, so that 140-pound division is a very interesting one. We just had Adrian Granados on the show earlier before you. What do you think of his fight between he and Adrian Broner?
I'm looking forward to seeing that fight, because that's going to be that'll be very interesting. I want to see what Granados will have in store for Broner, and what Broner will have in store likewise. And I'm very interested to see what happens. Of course, they have so much more experience on me. I'm just looking at them at the moment, to learn things and to see what I can take from this fight, take away from it, and try and learn something. But I'm super excited for that fight, as well as the fight that's coming up this weekend, with Mikey Garcia and Dejan Zlatican, I believe that's his name. I'm very, very excited to see that fight, because that also is in my weight division. And you know, it's always fun to watch these fights to try and learn from the big time pros.
Definitely, man. Definitely. So, are you going to be in the New York City area, to watch the Danny Garcia and Keith Thurman fight, that unification, or are you going to be watching that one from the West Coast?
Unfortunately, I'll be watching that from the West Coast. I would love to come out to New York and try the pizza because I love pizza. Who doesn't? And I would love to watch that fight live. But unfortunately, I'll be getting the West Coast feed. I'll be checking that out, and I'm super excited for that fight because that should be one hell of a fight.
Definitely is, man. A lot of people are on their toes waiting for that one. Listen, David, give everyone your social media, so if they're not following, they can do so. We want to wish you the best of luck come February 3rd. Obviously, we'll bring you back. We're going to continue to follow your career closely. We can't wait for you to come to New York City. We were kind of hoping that you would have said yes. We had a magical surprise for you, but don't worry about it. You'll learn about that soon enough. We do it biannually. But yeah, give us your social media.
Oh man, thank you guys for having me. You can follow me on Instagram at David Mijares, on Twitter at Junebug Mijares, or on Facebook, David Charles Mijares. And I appreciate you guys having me. I love the show. Thank you so much for having me.
No problem, David. Monster Bitch, thank you again as always.